Hey, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you're doing well. And today we're talking some surprise music beef. Taylor Swift is tweeting. The Swifties have the claws out. And who are we talking about? Who is the target aimed at? Strangely enough, Damon Albarn of Blur and Gorillaz fame, and also, plenty of solo music out there, as well as he is going to be doing a performance of some solo stuff very soon, which he has a new LA Times piece out where he is discussing that upcoming performance and his process with his new solo stuff. And in the midst of that interview, an artist comes up. He mentions Taylor Swift, offhandedly, kind of flippantly saying that she doesn't write her own songs. LA Times tweeting out some very quick quotes from the article. Taylor Swift retweeting those quotes and saying, "I was such a big fan of yours until I saw this. I write all my own songs. Your hot take is completely false and so damaging. You don't have to like my songs, but it's really fucked up for you to try and discredit my writing. Wow." From there, Jack Antonoff chimes in. He says, "I've never met Damon Albarn, and he's never been in my studio, but apparently he knows more than the rest of us about all those Taylor songs that she writes and brings in." Damon Albarn also came through as well, responding, saying, "Totally agree with you. I had a conversation about songwriting, and sadly it was reduced to clickbait. I apologize unreservedly and unconditionally. The last thing I would want to do is discredit your songwriting. I hope you understand." Let's try to get a little context here. Why is this feud happening? Is Damon in the right? Is Taylor in the right? What was actually said? Let's look at this article, this interview from LA Times, and assess Damon's comments here, because they are still posted for all to see. We actually don't need to dig that deep into the convo here. It's only a few questions in. Your show at Disney is you on piano. What playing inspires you? He says the playing of Thelonious Monk is his favorite, and he was very lucky to spend a bit of time with Ruben Gonzalez, just watching him play. It's a very nice thing to be able to do something that doesn't require any amplification, but it's actually quite hard doing a whole concert on piano. It's not hard playing in a band. He goes on to sort of insinuate that music with attitude and volume and sound is a little easier to hide behind than, just like a simple non-amplified piano concert, which, okay, I get that. There's sort of a point there. There's a purity to that process and that performance and that delivery that is certainly admirable. Now, the interviewer goes on to ask him, "You think a lot of modern musicians are relying on sound and attitude, to sort of like get by and get their music to appeal?" And he says, "Name me someone who's not. She may not be your taste, but Taylor Swift is an excellent songwriter," to which Damon claps back, "She doesn't write her own songs." So when I read that originally, I was sort of skeptical of this conversation and the back and forth, because I know sometimes context can be lost in these text-based interviews where you're kind of throwing out simple questions and you get like one sentence responses back. It's happened before. It's not altogether a new thing, but there is a follow-up question where Damon digs deeper into this point and doesn't really look all that much better in the process. The interviewer saying, "Of course she does. She co-writes some of them. That doesn't count. I know what co-writing is. Co-writing is very different to writing. I'm not hating on anybody. I'm just saying there's a big difference between a songwriter and a songwriter who co-writes." Well, you're not hating on anybody, but you are making a statement about her process and kind of further dismissing it, just simply labeling it as co-writing and nothing else, as if co-writing isn't an amorphous thing that can take on a bunch of different processes depending on the artist, depending on the album, depending on the song, but continuing on. Doesn't mean that the outcome can't be really great. And some of the greatest singers, Ella Fitzgerald never wrote a song in her life. When I sing, I have to close my eyes and just be in there. I suppose I'm a traditionalist in that sense. A really interesting songwriter is Billie Eilish and her brother, although that is two people. Two people co-writing songs. Undeniably co-writing songs. Now, their process of co-writing and co-creating and collaborating may be very different than that of Taylor Swift's, but you can't say what Billie Eilish is doing is not co-writing and co-creation in a sense. I'm more attracted to that than to Taylor Swift. It's just darker and endlessly, less endlessly upbeat, way more minor and odd. I think she's exceptional. I mean, I don't know how well versed Damon is in Taylor's latest stuff. There's some kind of dark songs on, her newest, more folk oriented records. I don't think all of her albums are endlessly upbeat. I am a little shocked and saddened by Damon's comments here, not only because I think so highly of his art, be that in the much more collaborative space of Gorillaz, or that be his music prior to that. But I've interviewed the guy myself, and he didn't really strike me as somebody who would in a very flippant way, dismiss another major artist's craft, especially somebody who, honestly, there are some people out there who write some really mediocre shit, but Taylor Swift is really no bullshit. I mean, if anybody out there in the pop sphere is absolutely no BS and like really about their business and cares about their craft enough to, bring on and work with exceptional creatives and producers such as Jack Antonoff and Dessner. It's Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's not going to sit here and let you, diminish her efforts in her music because, especially on her latest projects and all the effort she's putting into, re-recording and redoing her past records. She puts a lot of effort into what she does. She seems to have a lot of emotional investment in her work as well. She's not just like some plugged-in pop starlet industry plant that's being directed and told what to do. And if you look at her Tiny Desk concert with NPR, for example, on YouTube, which is certainly out there, she very competently plays and performs her own songs on acoustic guitar and piano and everything. For sure, she brings other people in on her creative process for a lot of tracks, but what major artist these days doesn't? You can't even point at Taylor Swift as, being someone who uniquely does that. I'm hoping that what he's saying here is more coming from just a place of ignorance. Maybe he heard a couple of Taylor Swift's more, pop-oriented tracks in passing and was like, that's not my thing. I know how songs like that are produced. Want to make a quick additional comment here, shaved now, of course, talking about the situation because I guess we have a development with Damon dedicating a song from his LA show to the interviewer that conducted the interview that got him in hot water in the first place. He doesn't seem to be taking full responsibility for his words, and he's kind of like, putting this whole thing onto the LA Times and the interviewer. And I guess I'll see his point insofar as, there was a quote that was in a certain context kind of salacious. They took it, they put it in a tweet, they posted it. But that is like what the interview says. And when you look at the entire interview, his comments on Taylor and her process is still not complimentary. What you said is what you said as far as, Damon's comments here. He hasn't denied saying what he said in the interview, so I guess we have to assume what's typed down there is, in fact, what was exchanged there in terms of the conversation. Look, I mean, what you said is what you said. It's not the interviewer or the LA Times fault that you said it and that it doesn't look good. If it's not what you said, I guess that's another issue. That's another thing. But if it's in fact what you said, it's not a great reflection on you, and it's nobody's fault other than the person who said it. You. So there we go. Surprise beef at the start of 2022. Hopefully things smooth over, and on a future Gorillaz album, we can see a Taylor Swift feature. That's what I'm praying for. That's what I'm praying for right now. I'm manifesting it. I'm manifesting it. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Love you. And Taylor Swift, Damon Albarn, brief forever.